Okay, welcome back once again. I'm Teacher Ray, and now we're going to discuss the distinctions among eminent domain, police power, and taxation. So, in our previous video, we have discussed the similarities. Now, let's discuss the differences among the three inherent powers. So, as to compensation, in taxation, the compensation is the protection and benefits received from the government. As we have discussed in chapter 1 of the reciprocity concept or the reciprocal duties of the state and the citizens, the taxpayers gives taxes in exchange for public services, which can come in the form of free roads, free vaccines, and others. In police power, the compensation is the maintenance of a healthy economic standard of society, while in eminent domain, there will be a just compensation for the property taken. Next is the difference as to purpose. In taxation, the property is taken from the taxpayer for the support of the government, while in police power, property is taken to promote the general welfare, and in eminent domain, the property is used for public use. Remember that in public domain, the government has the power to take your property for the purpose of building roads. Next is the distinction among eminent domain, police power, and taxation as to persons involved or affected. Both taxation and police power operate on the whole citizenry, while eminent domain operates on the individual property owner only. So, mas madaming naapektuhan yung taxation and police power as to persons involved as compared to eminent domain, which is kung ang affected lang ay yung property owner. Now let's go to as to relation to impairment clause of the Constitution. Taxation and eminent domain are inferior to the impairment clause of the Constitution, while police power is superior to impairment clause. Let me just explain this. So let's take our previous example on the non-impairment of obligations and contracts wherein a group of investors are planning to put up a nuclear power plant in the Philippines as a source of energy. So an agreement was made between the government and the investors that such undertaking will be allowed and will be exempt from taxes. So although such undertaking should have been taxable as expressed in the Philippine tax laws, the agreement or contract of the government and the investors will be followed. Now, let's just say that during the operation of the nuclear power plant, it became a threat to public health. Okay, so there's a possibility that it will explode or they found that there is a crack on the nuclear power plant. Now, what will happen? The government in this situation may cancel the contract. Okay, the agreement between the government and the investors will not be honored anymore because the police power of the state to promote the general welfare of the people will prevail under such circumstances. Okay, so that's the difference as to relation to impairment clause of the Constitution. Now let's go to as to authority which exercises the power. In taxation and police power, they may be exercised by the government. Okay? While eminent domain may be exercised by public service corporations or public utilities if the power is granted by law. So, pag inauthorize ang isang public service corporation or public utility to get a, a piece of your lot for road widening purposes, pwede nilang kunin yun in exchange for just compensation. So, pwede i-authorize ng government yung mga public service corporations or public utilities. Okay, in eminent domain. Okay, next is the amount of imposition. So in taxation, there is generally no limit on the amount of tax that may be imposed. Okay, no limit in taxation. In police power, the amount collected is limited to cover the cost of the license and regulation. So for example, if you're going to apply for a driver's license, kung magkano lang yung amount for registration, yun lang yung babayaran mo. Okay? In eminent domain, there is no imposition. Okay? Walang ini-impose na amount na babayaran ka. But, the owner of the property where the property is taken is paid its market value. Kukunin yung property mo, pero babayaran ka ng gobyerno for a just compensation. Next is as to relation to property rights. Okay? Police power regulates both liberty and property. Okay? The power of eminent domain and taxation affect only property rights. Okay? So, kung gusto mong sanang hindi magsuot ng face mask in public during a pandemic, bawal yun. Okay? So, you do not have liberty to tell to yourself na I will not wear face mask because police power regulates your liberty to wear face mask. They will require you to wear face mask and they can penalize you for not wearing face mask during this pandemic. Okay, in our next video, we're going to discuss the differences between tax and other fees or charges.